And we are the Non-Profits. Hi, everybody. I'm the host, Jeff D. My co-host is Denis Loubet.
Howdy.
And our producer, Russell Glasser.
Hello.
Coming to you live, if you're listening to us now, from the beautiful Burnett Studios in Hunter's Chase.
Yes.
It's been a while since I was on the show.
Yeah, that's
You guys
right.
had one 2 weeks ago.
That's right.
With me gone. With a cold.
Yeah.
That I'm still struggling with. There's been these horrible lingering colds. My wife got a cold, was better for about 2 days, and then got another one. Which I've never seen before in my life.
I think you've been trading them back and forth or something.
That could be.
Yeah, something's
Yeah,
been
because I
going
had mine sort of in between.
Something's been going around. I hear the Pope was sick, too.
Yeah.
He's not anymore, though, is he?
He's all better now. He's not going to get any sicker.
Okay. Falwell, on the other hand, recovered from his lung infection.
Yeah.
You
can't have everything.
You know, I've heard that having lungs full of hot air does tend to be conducive to lung infections.
Yeah, it's that warm, moist atmosphere. Yeah.
Okay. How deeply into making fun of dead and ailing religious leaders do we want to get on this show? Do we want to just go right off the cliff? If we can't say, fuck these people, I am so glad they're dead and dying.
If we can't do it here, where can we do it?
Should I say it again?
I don't really see what difference it makes that the Pope is dead.
It doesn't. There's a huge organization.
They'll just screw in another one. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody said somebody in the news group said, the light has gone out, talking about the Pope's death. And I said, it's okay, they'll just screw in another one.
Actually, I've been hearing a lot of rumors that his successor is going to be much more right-wing, extreme, and crazy. They haven't actually picked the new one yet, have they?
Not that I know of.
I don't think so. But, over the past couple of years, as he's been ailing, I've heard a lot about how the Vatican is moving more toward the right, and we actually were kind of lucky, in a sense,
to have the one
that we had the one we had, who on many issues was completely out of his frickin' mind.
Of course.
But on other issues was relatively moderate.
Well, I mean, come on. This guy apologized to Galileo and said that evolution, it's okay now.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So,
which is something.
Yeah.
He brought the Catholic Church up to where it's only a few centuries out of date now.
Right.
So, yeah. I have all scary news this week. Do you have any good news? Let's get the good news out of the way.
One piece of good news.
Oh, good. Okay. And then we can end the show on a depressing note.
Well, no. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold our announcements for the end.
Oh, wow.
Because I think the way I see the dramatic cycle of this episode is that we start with some good news, and we tell you about all the crap that's going on, and then we give you some announcements of things to do to get involved in, some way to fight back.
And planning stuff.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Okay.
It does not involve killing any more popes.
No.
Not like we even killed this one.
According to the religious right, it would involve killing poor innocent little stem cells.
Well, the Pope's gone. That's one.
However,
I understand there's a place where they have stem cells each on individual feeding tubes. That's got to stop.
Well, after 5 hours of debate that pitted Republicans against other Republicans on the most fundamental questions of human life, the Missouri Senate shelved a bill on Wednesday that seeks to ban stem cell research involving cloning.
Missouri.
Yes.
Wow, well.
Okay.
Missouri is pretty southern and pretty religious.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
So the fact that it happened there could be seen as a big deal.
Maybe.
Now even the bill's sponsor, Senator Matt Bartle, questions whether he has the political support to bring the matter back to the Senate floor later this session.
Yeah, fuck that. I don't ever care. You know when you read these things, you read these news stories, and like the guy that brought the bill is now doubting that he can. I don't want him to freaking doubt that he's got the votes. I want him to doubt that his bill was a good idea in the first place. Right. I want him to actually listen to the words coming out of his opponent's mouths, think about them, and if they make a good argument, say that.
They can't do that, though. That's what faith is all about. I mean, they believe that once they've decided on a course of action, that course of action is...
How's his health doing, by the way, that guy?
By God.
Is he taking his vitamins and everything?
Why? Oh, because...
Just curious.
I don't know.
Go ahead. I'm in a very angry mood today. Go ahead.
Yeah, here you have all bad news. It's become pretty obvious to me a long time ago that there is more than enough political will to kill the bill, said Bartle, our Republican, Lee's Summit.
Maybe there's good arguments.
Nah. Bartle's remarks came at the end of what some senators described as an agonizing debate over a research procedure that's viewed alternately as a salvation for the sick or the destruction of the earliest forms of life.
Whoa.
You mean like...
prokaryotes? What?
Yeah. Yeah, those earliest forms of life.
Single-celled organisms?
We got single-celled organisms on feeding tubes now?
I don't know.
You don't know what they're saying.
The debate saw senators...
By the way, I could use a feeding tube in here. Anybody else hungry? Can we get Mary?
Oh, man.
Hey, Mary?
You know, we need one of those feeding tubes like they have the beer things that you put on your hat.
Great! So it's a drinking tube.
That's my drinking
tube. But the concept is much the same.
You have porridge in one. It's your feeding tube.
We were wondering if hi, Mary. Hi. We were wondering if we could get some feeding tubes in here. We're kind of hungry.
You want insure in those?
Whatever you got. You're not going to deny us our feeding tubes, are you?
God, that would be...
You bitch! How dare you?
Seriously, though, if I can shift gears for a second.
Before you do, I really would like a glass of ice water.
Oh, sure. And I've got soda.
This is not a joke.
You want soda?
No, just water.
All right, cool. Anybody else?
No, I'm fine.
We're supposed to take care of this before the show.
Yeah, really.
Sure.
You shouldn't be placing our drink orders in the middle of the show.
With ice?
We can, please.
Okay.
We can call for a pizza, too.
Mary. That's Mary, the person who was nice enough to give us our house and be bossed around by us.
Yeah. But she denied us our feeding tubes, and I think we're going to have an act of Congress about that.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I'm still in the middle of this story, but
don't you understand that every human being has the right to a feeding tube?
Yeah. You bring up a point that was made kind of interestingly by somebody on the Motley Fool message board this week, who is in fact a doctor, and was responding to all these Christians saying, "Oh my God, you're killing Terry Schiavo by starving her to death. That is the most disgusting and inhumane thing you could possibly do. We treat convicted felons better than that, right? That's been the religious line of reasoning about this. What this guy pointed out that I thought that caused me to think, well, I have never even looked at it that way, is he said, you know, interestingly enough, if the Schindler family had agreed with Michael Schiavo about the correct course of action, if they'd all agreed to remove the feeding tube, this wouldn't have been a controversy. Even though it would have been the exact same issue where she would have starved to death.
Right.
If only the Schindlers had said, okay, pull the plug, then the religious right would not have gotten involved in the first place.
And the same thing if Michael Schiavo had said, okay, leave it in.
Right. But they're making this big moral objection based on the fact that they're pulling it out, and it's a horrible, disgusting form of murder.
Right.
When in fact the issue is not Terry Schiavo, because she doesn't have a brain.
It happens
she's dead now,
every frickin' day.
Right. It was nothing more than taking sides in a family dispute.
Right.
It has nothing to do with starving her to death.
Well, there's a consistency issue, right?
Okay.
I mean, if these people want to say every time you've got a brain dead person and they and life support is withdrawn, that's equally murder.
Mm-hmm.
If they want to say it's always true in every case, they could do that and be consistent. I still think they were nuts, but at least they'd be consistent.
Yes, they would be nuts.
The problem is, I don't think the problem is so much that just that there was a dispute in this case, but that the dispute was used as the hook that enabled Congress to get involved.
Right.
Right? There's thousands and thousands of these people, of these brainless human remains. By the way, I'd like to share with everyone a derogatory term that I learned last night for brain-dead people. This is according to...
Christians?
According to a mutual friend of ours, Paul Wilson.
Yes, who's in the chat room.
Paul Wilson's there?
Yes.
Oh, hi, Paul. And I verified this by checking on the internet because I'd never heard this before. In hospital slang, a brain-dead individual is referred to as a gork.
A gork?
G-O-R-K. I never heard that either. I found it hard to believe. I checked dictionary.com and there it was. Immediately verified.
Sounds like a
there was a
level 6 role-playing monster.
And then there was the term gorked, which is that, to have things happen to you that turn you into one of those.
Wow.
So Terry Schiavo got gorked, and then she was a gork.
Right.
And and presumably that hospice that she was in is chock full of gorks. But it is, according to dictionary.com, it is derogatory. I don't recommend that anybody go around using this, but I bring it up because it just illustrates the fact that she was not a unique case. There are thousands.
There's be awfully desensitized to that.
Yeah, there's a lot.
But my point is there are enough people in that situation that there's a derogatory term for it.
Right. It's not like she was special in any way.
Right. The only thing it's just that the fact that there was a conflict, a family conflict, provided an angle for the right-wingers to get involved.
Right.
That's it, period. So I really don't, I think they're right if they want to say not force-feeding a brain-dead person is akin to starvation.
Sure.
Right? Because anytime you starve somebody, it's because they're not in a position to get food for themselves.
Okay.
Right? And if they want to say that's horrible, I tend to agree starvation is horrible.
Right.
But it's a lot less horrible when the brainless human body you're doing it to hasn't got any conception of what's happening to it in the first place because it has no higher brain functions.
Right.
Then you're doing the same thing as if you had some human cells in a petri dish and you stopped replenishing its medium. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all you're doing.
The one thing that threw me all the time while I was listening to James Dobson during this whole episode was when somebody came in and said, I said to Terry, if you really want to live, then say so. And she says, and then she said, wah. And that was
and one time I really wanted to know what was going to happen tomorrow, and so I laid down 2 tarot cards, and those tarot cards had, things that I could interpret as meaning, indications of what was going to happen to me tomorrow. That's exactly what they're doing. They're using this lump of human flesh that randomly gyrates and makes noises.
Yeah.
And interpreting it like a deck of tarot cards.
Beyond that, nobody else had apparently heard the story before it went to court, and it all of a sudden came up when they were throwing out desperate ploys to keep the feeding tube from being pulled.
Yeah. But just what drives me frickin' crazy is even on Air America, which I quite enjoy listening to, you very rarely get a clear, hardline, scientific discussion of exactly what that is. I mean, people still referred to the remains of Terry Schiavo on a feeding tube as a her, as a person, you know, and talked about what she wanted. What she wanted was what she wanted 15 years ago when she still had a brain to have wants in.
Right.
I mean, and I really think that a lot of our problem, when I say our, I mean rationalists and liberals, who are mostly the same people, is that it is horrifying to contemplate a big human-shaped lump of flesh that makes expressions and thrashes around its limbs and utters these unintelligible syllables and stuff. To think of that as not any different from, like, having a, you know, human finger attached to some life support. You know, it's really creepy.
It is.
And when you talk about it, it's easy to imagine people being offended that, oh, how could you say such a terrible thing about poor Terry?
Yeah.
But it's not a person. It's not a person. The only reason that we think about it as a person is because we're operating by these ancient, out-of-date understanding of what a human being is. It's a human-shaped lump of flesh that has a soul in it. Well, no. First, there's no such thing as frickin' souls. And second, you have to have a functioning brain. That's a human being.
Because
a person's personality is the brain. It's like, imagine if somebody was in a horrific accident where their entire head got crushed, and they hook up a feeding tube down the esophagus, down the neck hole, right? And then talk about that like a person. It's really the same thing.
Right. Yeah. No head.
The only difference is, because this one had a face, and the face was still hooked up to some very, very primitive, low-level ancient brain functions that could make it twitch a bit and make noises. Because of that, all of a sudden it's a human being. No, it's a frickin' meat puppet. And even that's putting it wrong, because she's not a meat puppet. There's no puppetry going on. She's a meat tarot card deck. A lump of meat in the shape of a human being that randomly thrashes around and people interpret what it's doing. Anyway, I've gotten sidetracked. My point is, I think we need to all just grit our teeth and say the frickin' truth.
Yeah.
And not be shy about the fact that there are folks who are going to take it badly. Because they can take it badly, but then it's their job to show why the truth you've just said isn't true.
But they don't have to. All they have to do is vote.
I think they do. I don't think the discussion is happening that would require that truth to be examined.
I don't think
because the truth isn't being brought up, hardly at all. Just being shy about bringing it up. Afraid that they're going to turn their ire on us next. Well, that may be true. That may be true. But look, I mean, look what happened with stem cells, right? Russell's reading us a story about an argument between Republicans in Missouri about stem cells, right?
Right.
In that case, because of the involvement of big business, right, the big drug industries that want to actually use this, right, because of them, the facts about stem cells have gotten a hearing. And so now the Republicans are arguing amongst themselves. They do change their mind when the facts are presented to them. But we need to be, we're not big business, so we're going to personally benefit from this. We're going to indirectly benefit because we'll get to live in a culture where people aren't frickin' insane. Right? We need to be brave enough to actually say these facts. Yeah, it'll be painful for a while. And people will think badly of us for a while. But, the same people who are going to think badly of us are the people who already think badly of us. They already think we deserve to be tortured forever. Right. So I don't care about that. There's no downside, as far as I'm concerned. I'm sorry, Russell. I've completely hijacked your story.
That's okay. I'm looking at something. Sorry.
Are we having technical problems, Mr. Producer Man?
This recording program is a piece of crap.
Ah.
For people who are wondering
Did it record that?
What? Oh,
when you just said it was a piece of crap.
I think now it did.
So it's not vindictive.
Seriously, though, I have to thank once again Walter Groninger, sorry, the guy who records our show every week and fills in for me when my recording screws up.
Can you actually mention
Thank you, Walter.
the product you're using to fail to record stuff?
I don't think we necessarily need to name the piece of software that we think is crap. Do we need to do that? Do you care?
No.
Do you want to?
No, it's not really the software's fault. It's a problem with registration. Oh, stop that.
Okay, well, we're not going to discuss that.
Right.
Nobody can see your screen. Okay, should I take over and you want to go back to your story a bit?
For a little bit.
Let's talk about the underlying problem, right? We've got to talk about all this crazy shit going on. There's a root to all this, and here it is. Christian evangelicals plotting to conquer America. Now, we all kind of generally know that this is going on, right? But here's the facts. In February, 900 of America's staunchest Christian fundamentalists gathered in Fort Lauderdale to look back on what they accomplished in last year's election and what they plan to do next. As they assemble in the vast sanctuary of Coral Ridge Presbyterian, with all 50 state flags dangling from the rafters, 3 stadium-sized video screens flash the name of the conference, Reclaiming America for Christ. These are the evangelical activists behind the nation's most effective political machine, one that brought more than 4 million new Christian voters to the polls last November, sending George W. Bush back to the White House and 32 new pro-lifers to Congress. But despite their unprecedented power, fundamentalists still see themselves as a persecuted minority, waging a holy war against the godless forces of secularism. Meet the dominionists, biblical literalists who believe God has called them to take over the U.S. government. As the far right wing of the evangelical movement, dominionists are pressing an agenda that makes Newt Gingrich's contract with America look like the Communist Manifesto. They want to rewrite school books to reflect a Christian version of American history, pack the nation's courts with judges who follow Testament law, post the 10 Commandments in every courthouse, and make it a felony for gay men to have sex and women to have abortions. In Florida, when the courts ordered Terry Schiavo's feeding tube removed, it was the dominionists who organized round-the-clock and issued a fiery call for Governor Jeb Bush to defy the law and take Schiavo into state custody. Their ultimate goal is to plant the seeds of a faith-based government that will endure far longer than Bush's presidency, all the way until Jesus comes back.
Another 2,000 years.
Here's a quote. Most people hear them talk about a Christian nation and think, well, that sounds like a good moral thing. Says Reverend Mel White, who ghostwrote Jerry Falwell's autobiography before breaking with the evangelical movement. What they don't know, what even most conservative Christians who voted for Bush don't know, is that Christian nation means something else entirely to these dominionist leaders. The godfather of the dominionists is D. James Kennedy, the most influential evangelical you've never heard of. Well,
I have.
We all have, because we've done the research, because we're in the trenches, but maybe some of you folks have. Certainly a lot of people who are not activist, atheists, or secularist freedom fighters might not have heard of him. A former Arthur Murray dance instructor, he launched his ministry in 1959. After helping found the Moral Majority in 1979, Kennedy became a 5-star general in the Christian Army. Bush sought his blessing before running for president and continues to consult top dominionists on matters of federal policy. Quote, "Our job is to reclaim America for Christ, whatever the cost," Kennedy says. Whatever the cost. As the vice-regents of God, we are to exercise godly dominion and influence over our neighborhoods, our schools, our government, our literature and arts, our sports arenas, our entertainment media, our news media, our scientific endeavors, in short, over every aspect and institution of human society. Notice now the leap from reclaiming America to talking about all of human society.
Right.
These guys do not just want to take over America.
They want to take over the world.
They want to take over the world.
Right. They're all sitting there petting their white cats.
What are we doing today, Brain?
Are you pondering what I'm pondering?
Gork. It helps that Dominionists have a direct line to the White House. The Reverend Richard Land, top lobbyist for the 16 million-member Southern Baptist Convention, enjoys a weekly conference call with top Bush advisors, including Karl Rove. The Dominionists are also stepping up efforts to turn public schools into forums for evangelism. In a landmark case, the Alliance Defense Fund is suing a California school district that threatened to dismiss a born-again teacher who was evangelizing fifth graders. Right? This is a teacher.
Yeah, of course.
Using his position of authority in a government institution, public school,
right,
as a platform to evangelize his own personal religious beliefs.
Fifth graders, yeah.
What did I say?
Fifth graders.
Fifth graders, yeah. In the conference's opening ceremony, the Dominionists recite an oath they dream of hearing in every classroom. Okay, guys, put down any sharp implements you are holding now. Listen to this. Quote, I pledge allegiance to the Christian flag and to the Savior whose kingdom it stands for, one Savior, crucified, risen and coming again, with life and liberty for all who believe.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
No liberty for non-believers.
Yes.
Or wrong.
Sieg Heil, dude.
No liberties, no life,
these are
Russell. No life or liberty.
No life either. Okay.
For those who don't believe.
God.
While the Dominionists rely...
supremacists, man.
Well, yeah. Well,
Christian supremacists.
They're Christian supremacists. I'm sure the white supremacy thing is just, that's just a side issue with them.
Right.
While the Dominionists rely on grassroots activists to fight their battles, they are backed by some of America's richest entrepreneurs. Now, this is a time to get your pen and pencil, paper and pencil or pen, to write down some places never to shop again. Okay? They are backed by some of America's richest entrepreneurs. Amway founder Rich DeVos.
Oh, yeah, like I was going to shop there anyway.
Well, you weren't. But for those that aren't aware, Amway supports these people. A Kennedy ally who's the leading Republican contender for governor of Michigan. Do you know Rich DeVos running for governor of Michigan?
Yeah.
Okay. Has tossed more than $5 million into the collection plate. Jean Case, wife of former AOL chief Steve Case, whose fortune was made largely on sex chat rooms, has donated $8 million. Are you using AOL? Actually, wife of former AOL, I don't know that she's necessarily getting any more money from AOL now. Doesn't say. Okay. And Tom Monaghan, founder of Domino's Pizza, is a major source of cash for Focus on the Family.
Okay.
Do not shop at Domino's. We implore you. He's a major
Can't
source.
I just not shop at Domino's because I hate their pizza?
Sure. If you need further encouragement, sure.
Yes.
He is a major source of cash for Focus on the Family, a mega ministry working with Kennedy to eliminate all public schools. The most vivid proof... You have comments, Dennis?
No, not really.
It does sort of speak for itself.
Yeah, it does. There's. I can't make it seem more obscene than it is.
But you're not getting this in the mainstream media.
No, of course not. What media are we getting this from? Where did this come from?
This did I write down? I'm afraid I did not record my source. Didn't record my source.
Okay,
it's true. I mean, I've heard all this stuff before. This is
right.
A rewriting of the same facts. The most vivid proof of the Christianizing of Capitol Hill comes at the final session of Reclaiming America. Representative Walter Jones, a lanky congressman from North Carolina, don't give a flying fuck if he's lanky, gives a fire and brimstone speech that would have gotten him laughed out of Washington 30 years ago. In today's climate, however, he's got a chance of passing his pet project, the Houses of Worship Free Speech Restoration Act, which would permit ministers to endorse political candidates from their pulpits, effectively converting their tax-exempt churches into partisan political campaign headquarters. Wow. This article actually says Republican campaign headquarters, but if they pass this thing, liberal ministers will be able to support liberal candidates too. That's not the issue. I don't care that which side is going to be supported by tax-exempt ministers. I care that political candidates are being preached in favor of by tax-exempt ministers. Right. That's the problem. Free Speech Restoration Act. Your free speech was never taken away from you. Your free speech was traded away in a deal with the government which said, fine, you can be a non-partisan, tax-exempt organization. Right?
You can be tax-exempt.
You can be tax-exempt. The trade-off is going to be that you can't use that as a special privileged position from which to be politically partisan. It's a deal. It's a what do you call it? A covenant, if you will, with the government.
Well, obviously this guy wants to renegotiate the covenant.
Now, if you want to be what these churches ought to be doing is there's no reason they couldn't reform themselves as tax-paying political organizations that are also religious. They certainly could do that. There's nothing stopping them. You could have a church where, you know what? You come into our church, I will tell you from the podium which political candidates to vote for, and a portion of your donations of your offerings will be taxed. Right? The church will have to pay that in taxes. They could do that. That'd be perfectly legal now. Why don't they?
Money.
So it's all about making a buck. Right. Russell, are you done fiddling with that yet?
Pretty much.
Okay. Do you want to continue with your story? I filled the gap there while you were wrestling mightily with the computer hardware.
Let's whipsaw ourselves back to the first story.
Yeah, man, we were back in Missouri with the... Do you have bad news now?
I could just go on to something else.
Dude, fine. If you think you've covered that. Go ahead. Remember, that's Domino's Pizza.
Yeah.
And also, what was the other one?
Amway.
An Amway.
But millions of dollars. And what organization is doing the opposite?
What do you mean?
Is what organization is pursuing the opposite of these dominions? I mean, is standing against them. That's getting millions of dollars.
If there was an opposite, I wouldn't support that either. I mean, if there were liberal organizations trying to take over the government for some liberal view of religion,
secular purposes,
I wouldn't. But that's not an opposite,
right?
See,
I guess
the midpoint.
I'm just asking, what's standing in their way?
American Civil Liberties Union,
right?
Which is evil, they say.
Everyone says, evil.
Americans United for Separation of Church and State.
Right. How many millions are they getting?
Among all those organizations? I have no idea. Why?
I'm just curious.
Oh, you just want to know how the battle's going?
Yeah, I want to know how one-sided it is.
I think if you look at what's actually happening in the world, or in just the United States so far, they'll get to the world eventually, that gives you the clearest indication of how it's going. And it's not going well, right?
No, it's not.
They've
got more money.
Look who's in Congress. Look who's sitting in the White House. Look what kinds of laws are being passed. Look what's being challenged in the courts. Look what dominates the media.
Yeah, well, the Dominionists, they can have their big conspiracy, which is basically what it is. It's a big conspiracy to take over the government.
Yeah.
Right. And guess what? Americans United for the American Way and the ACLU, they don't have a conspiracy to bolster them.
Yes, they do.
What?
They have an actual conspiracy.
Because
here it
Constitution.
is. Here's the fact. What are you talking about?
What do they have assisting them? What conspiracy do they have assisting them?
You mean, how are they conspiring?
No, I'm saying they don't have a conspiracy to help them. I mean, a big, huge conspiracy, that's a big steamroller that's going to get what it wants, right? Yeah, and the American and the ACLU, they don't have a conspiracy to depend on to stop that steamroller.
Okay, I'm having trouble understanding what you mean because
what?
Because this organization that I just read about.
Yeah.
These Christians, right?
Right.
I mean, they are their own conspiracy.
Right.
Well, so how? I mean, they're only different from the ACLU and Americans United and organizations like that. What they do is not getting much coverage.
Right.
So that's the only difference. I mean, and I don't think I want the American Civil Liberties Union operating in secrecy.
No, of course not. I'm not suggesting that.
So, but that's what they would have to do to have a conspiracy akin to the conspiracy.
I'm not saying they have a conspiracy.
I know you don't. I know you're saying they don't. You were asking if they did, pointing out that they don't.
Right.
Okay. So is your only point that they are at a disadvantage?
Yes. They're at a severe disadvantage compared to these guys.
Yeah. Their advantage is supposed to come from the fact that they're on the right side and that they're supporting the actual, what the Constitution actually says.
Right.
Which is why...
And these guys are attempting to throw down the Constitution.
Exactly. That is the only way they can win. They have to change the rules. And,
God.
And, they're getting closer and closer all the time.
I know.
Yep.
But, the fact that we have conservatives, I'll say, which includes your Republicans and your religious lunatics, both, the fact that we have them fighting against each other on some issues is that last little, straw we can grasp at as maybe it won't all happen. Okay, go ahead.
That's not much of a straw.
Well, read some more.
Yeah, and I have other ways in which they're trying to interfere with things.
Okay.
Christian Legal Society prepares to sue university.
Oh, yeah.
This is from a local college paper. If the demands of the SIUC student chapter of the Christian Legal Society, and I wish I'd printed what SIUC is because they just assumed people would know that.
Right.
Stupid, ignorant Christian... I'm sorry. Ignorant university Christians.
Sued.
Oh, sorry.
This is the actual university.
The supreme... intelligent university champions. Thank you.
But if the demands of their student chapter of the Christian Legal Society are not met within 7 days, the university may be facing legal action.
Yeah.
Members of the Christian Legal Society, with the help of the Center for Law and Religious Freedom, have filed a lawsuit in federal court claiming the university abridged their First and 14th Amendment rights when it revoked the organization's status as an SIUC registered student organization.
Uh-huh. Oh, this is a different one than I...
it is different. I actually thought I was looking at another story.
Well, fine. Well, let's go through and follow through on this one.
Casey Maddox, litigation counsel for the Center for Law and Religious Freedom, said, although the complaint has been filed, it has yet to be served. He said the university has been given until April 15th to rescind the decision. Our hope is they will reverse the decision and respect the chapter's right as a religious organization and that we can work this out outside of court, Maddox said. University spokeswoman Sue Davis said the university is considering different options in regard to the lawsuit but declined to go into detail because of the legalities.
It's obvious. What you go is you say, we have this set of rules for student religious organizations, and we have that set of rules for student legal organizations, and you can be one or the other.
I'm not sure
I'm betting that's where they're going to go. That's where I would go. Go ahead.
This isn't the kind of story I thought I was about to read.
Go ahead.
Maddox said the dispute, which has been ongoing since February, started when the university requested a review into the chapter's membership and leadership policies after receiving a complaint from an unidentified law student. Christian Legal Society is a national association of Christian lawyers, law students, law professors, and judges that adheres to a strict Orthodox Christian beliefs, and as a result requires all members and officers to sign a statement of faith, in which they agree to abide by biblical standards of morality, including the prohibition of sexual conduct between persons of the same sex. However, anyone is welcome to attend the chapter meetings and events without being a member.
Okay.
So where I'm seeing this going is the university says that you have to allow all students who want to be members.
Okay. Well, but I guess I'm just not up to date on this. At universities that have student religious organizations,
yes,
right? And I know that they have such things.
Yes.
Don't they allow student religious organizations to exclude people from membership who are not of that religion?
I really couldn't tell you.
I bet they do.
I bet they do. Southern Illinois University in Carbondale, Illinois.
Okay. I bet they do, and I bet the problem here is they have, if you're going to be a religious organization, of course they let you have limit your membership to people of your religion. But if you're not a religious organization, if you want to pose as a legal students organization, then you have to follow non-discriminatory things, right?
I'll buy that.
That's what I think is going on. But go ahead. I'm guessing now, and I shouldn't be doing that because we're the nonprofits and we have no idea what the hell we're talking about.
After reviewing the chapter's policy, the university informed the Christian Legal Society in writing that its status and privileges, which include access to bulletin boards and web space on the Lesar School of Law website as an SIUC RSO, were revoked.
RSO.
Registered Student Organization.
Okay, yeah.
Davis said the organization still has access to rooms it had previously used for group meetings and other functions. In the letter from Law School Dean Peter Alexander, dated March 25th, the university maintained that as an entity of SIUC, the organization's membership and leadership policies requiring all officers and voting members to sign a statement of faith violated the university's affirmative action and equal employment opportunity policy.
Huh. Okay. Well, that seems like that. Then at that place you couldn't have any religious student organizations that discriminate.
It does seem that way.
Okay. Well, and I think that's a fine policy to have.
Okay. The university furthermore maintained that the organization's policies did not adhere to federal and state laws concerning non-discrimination and equal opportunity. Maddox said he is unaware of any state or federal laws that would prohibit an organization from choosing its members based on religious beliefs or how the university can apply employment policies to student organizations. Maddox said, as an expressive association under the First Amendment, CLS has the constitutional right to choose and exclude its members based on its views. Jessica Davis, Director of Law Student Development, declined to comment on the situation. Said all inquiries...
Sorry, go ahead.
All inquiries should be directed to Alexander, who said Davis would be handling the matter.
Okay. Okay, it's not what I thought. I was wrong.
No.
Proving once again we are the nonprofits.
It's not what I thought either.
And
I'd like to talk about what we thought this was going to be about.
We will after we're done with this. But one of the biggest problems facing our nation today is this crap about as long as you're doing something for religious purposes, you can violate other rules.
Right.
That has so fucking got to stop. And it's driven me crazy ever since the first time I ever heard about this was, and I love to use this example, was the Rastafarians getting the legal right in some context. I forget the details of the case, but They had the right to use marijuana in their religious ceremonies because it was holy to them.
Right.
And that's the first one I'm aware of. Maybe this goes farther back in history. I don't know. But that's the oldest example I can cite. This idea that something that's against the law should be, that you should be able to get exemption from the law as long as your exemption is religiously motivated is absolute, utter bullcrap, and we cannot be having that in our culture.
Right.
Which is not to say that I think it's a good idea for marijuana to be illegal. As years go by, I get more and more inclined to think that our drug policy in this country is all wrong-headed, and we'd have a lot less problems if we just let people go ahead and do stupid things. But if once it's a law, you don't make a frickin' exception
because of religion.
Because of religion, and all this crap is exceptions for religion. Oh well. Terry Schiavo was Catholic, therefore we need to make exceptions to the way these things are normally resolved and stick the feeding tube back in because the Catholic Church says it should go back in. Or our university doesn't allow you to discriminate against anybody, a member of or any student at the university that wants to be a member of your group. And the group saying, well, we need to be able to limit it so only people that agree with us can be members of our group, otherwise you're being mean. It's like, fuck you. No, you're being mean by setting up these religiously motivated exclusionary policies.
That's right. You're being mean by not letting me be mean, is what it always comes down to.
Yeah.
If you were really nice, then you would let me be mean and just sit there and say, well, that's okay.
Yeah, we're supposed to completely not care what they do. Sorry, right. We do.
Well, they gotta be persecuted. They gotta think they're being persecuted in some way.
But again, that's not the specific story.
But I'd love to give them that. I'd love to give them that persecution.
Yeah.
By rescinding all these freaking exceptions.
It'd be nice if there actually was Christian persecution here in the U.S.
No, not Christian persecution, but issues on which they can feel that they are being wronged. Sure.
Right.
I'd love to give them that back by rescinding all these special exemptions.
Yeah.
No, you can't do all these extra things you think you should be able to do that break the rules just because you're religious. And I'd apply that not just to Christians, but to any stupid religion.
Everybody, yeah.
That's right.
All right. So, yes, Russell, I know you want to get on to talking about their other assault on academic freedom.
Yeah, which is essentially that a group, and I wish I had a story on this. I thought that was the story, but it wasn't.
No.
But there is a group that is campaigning for the right of students to sue professors if they don't like the content of their courses. If they feel that the professors are not being sensitive enough, as, for instance, if they're teaching evolution. And then this is, of course, yet another step in the evolution of creationism, where they tried to ban evolution, didn't work. They tried to enforce creation, didn't work. They tried to enforce a watered-down version of creation that didn't appear to be religious, didn't work.
They're on that one. They're regaining ground.
Well, gradually, but it's not working as fast as they would like.
All right, fine, sure.
I mean, we kicked their ass here in Texas.
Okay.
At least temporarily.
Yeah.
But now the new version is they don't want to go through official channels. They want to stick it in the students' hand and say, sure, teach evolution if you want, but then our students will sue you.
Yeah, now they'll try and sue us out of existence. Great.
And this one I don't understand. I don't understand the angle. I mean, if they want to go to court over the accuracy of information taught, I could see a student, realistically, bringing a lawsuit against a teacher who taught him some stuff that turned out not to be true.
Right.
Although, well, I don't know that I would...
Well, I would see, I can easily see a lot of those getting thrown out if these are relatively minor issues. But if you had a guy that taught you that, Germany won World War II, right? An obvious false thing, and you were paying money to be educated in facts, and you were taught great big whopping falsehoods like that, I can see a point of suing over that, maybe. Mm-hmm. But this is not a question of accuracy, right?
Right.
They're not asking for the right to sue over factual disputes. They're asking for the right to sue just
their
because
beliefs not being respected.
Yeah, just because the teacher said something that disagrees with what they want to believe. I guess it's the same damn thing, right?
I guess.
It's just going further. I mean, not only are they insisting on the right to break the rules themselves. Hey, can we use this against them?
Sure.
Could we then, go to private schools, for example? Or is this only public schools?
No, I'm sure it's only public schools. Because, the...
Universities.
Universities are the new right-wing boogeyman du jour. I mean, it's always been that way, but this is the one that they're choosing to focus on right now.
Right.
Is you're hearing,
Okay, can I go to some Christian university?
Yeah.
And when they teach me evolution, can I then say...
when they teach you creation.
Right, they teach me creationism. Can I then sue them under this rule? Or is that because it's a private university? Then, yeah. Damn.
See, they've got a problem with people who attempt to objectively teach facts. I think that's where it comes down to.
They have what they think is the truth, and
when
you try to teach something opposite.
This is something I've talked about before, which is when news tries to honestly cover everything from both angles, they say, "Oh, they're not only presenting conservative views, so they're liberal."
Right.
And when universities teach things that are known facts, I'm sorry, folks, but a lot of known facts don't jibe with the Christian religion.
Right.
And so they're anti-Christian.
So it's like not only do they want to be able to break the rules themselves personally, they also want to be able to sue anybody that gets in the way of them breaking the rules.
Right.
Which is interesting. They want to be able to sue when others prevent them from exercising their rights. Right?
Exactly.
Okay, you ready for some hypocrisy? I've just segued with my hypocrisy. Sure. Okay, remember, Christians want to sue others that stand in the way of them doing what they see as their right. Okay. Crap. Where's my story?
After that nice setup.
I have
nice segue.
I do have it. Wait a minute. Where's the story?
Come on.
It's here somewhere.
You've given the pitch.
Here it is. Some pharmacists across the country are refusing to fill prescriptions for birth control and morning after pills, saying that dispensing the medications violates their personal, moral, or religious beliefs. Now, wait a minute. Can a customer sue when they go into a pharmacy and say, I want to buy my birth control pills, which is perfectly legal and within their rights, and the pharmacist says no? Can the customer sue them?
It sounds like it.
Is that not exactly the same kind of thinking?
It is exactly the same thing, and of course, pharmacists are in fact regulated by the state. I mean, I'm going to get to those. I'm going to get to those details in the story. And from the other perspective, right? Can a university professor, does he have a right to refrain from dispensing right-wing bullshit if he doesn't agree with it, if it violates his personal, moral, or religious beliefs? Would that not also be the same kind of thinking? They can't have it both ways. They cannot have it both ways. They can.
Aha. The trend has opened a new front in the nation's battle over reproductive rights, sparking an intense debate over the competing rights of pharmacists to refuse to participate in something they consider repugnant, and a woman's right to get medications her doctor has prescribed. It has also triggered pitched political battles in state houses across the nation as politicians seek to pass laws either to protect pharmacists from being penalized or to force them to carry out their duties.
Oh, good grief.
This is a very big issue that's just beginning to surface, said Stephen H. Aden of the Christian Legal Society's Center for Law and Religious Freedom in Annandale, which defends pharmacists. More and more pharmacists are becoming aware of their right to conscientiously refuse to pass objectionable medications across the counter. We are on the very front edge of a wave that's going to break not too far down the line.
Something's going to break.
Damn it.
There are pharmacists who will only give birth control pills to a woman if she's married. There are pharmacists who mistakenly believe contraception is a form of abortion and refuse to prescribe it to anyone, said Adam Sonfeld of the Alan Guttmacher Institute of New York.
I wouldn't get medications from these quacks anyway.
Which tracks reproductive issues. There are even cases of pharmacists holding prescriptions hostage where they won't even transfer it to another pharmacy when time is of the essence. So not only will they not sell you the contraceptive, they will prevent you from getting your prescription to another pharmacist who will.
There's another problem with this, which I don't know if it's mentioned in your story or not, but some women actually take birth control pills for health reasons. It's doctors can prescribe birth control for, I don't know, heart problems or something like that. Even when it has nothing to do with birth control.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't remember seeing that particular point in the story, so, yeah. This pharmacist holding a prescription hostage?
If somebody died because of... No, it would not be cool.
It wouldn't be good, but it would,
if someone
it would bring
died
the point
because
home.
a pharmacist withheld...
That's the culture of life.
Right.
So that is what happened to Kathleen Poles and her husband, who panicked when the condom they were using broke. Their fear really spiked when the Walgreens pharmacy down the street from their home in Milwaukee refused to fill an emergency prescription for the morning after pill, excuse me. I couldn't believe it, said Poles, who, with her husband, had long ago decided they could not afford a fifth child. How can they make that decision for us? I was outraged. At the same time, I was sad that we had to do this, but I was scared. I didn't know what we were going to do. Supporters of pharmacist rights see the trend as a welcome expression of personal belief.
Oh, fuck.
When women's groups see it as a major threat to reproductive rights and one of the latest manifestations of the religious right's growing political reach, this time into the neighborhood pharmacy. This is another indication of the current political atmosphere and climate, said Rachel Lasser of the National Women's Law Center in Washington. It's outrageous, it's sex discrimination, it prevents access to a basic form of health care for women. We're going back in time.
Isn't it also the case that, I mean, most of the pharmacists who do this, don't own their own pharmacy. So I think, isn't it also the case that there's something in here about not being able to fire someone who decides to do this for personal reasons?
That's exactly what they want.
Right.
Want legislation that would prevent the conscientious objecting pharmacists from being fired.
So this is like a guy in an auto shop.
What's Walgreens' position?
This is
I'll get to that. Okay.
This is like a guy in a car shop saying, I'm sorry, I refuse to work on oil changes. Guy comes in, says, I really need an oil change right now. He's the only guy on duty. And he says, no, I won't do an oil change. In fact, I will, cripple your car so it's impossible for anyone else to do it. Yeah,
any oil you get put in will drain out.
And then this guy cannot be fired by the auto shop.
And that can be for any reason whatsoever. I mean, this guy can go, I just don't like the way you look, so no, I won't fix your car. Yeah. It's like, what the hell?
That's nuts.
We reserve the right to refuse service to anyone. Well,
yeah, and we reserve the right to make it impossible for anyone else to serve you.
The question of healthcare workers refusing to provide certain services first emerged among doctors, nurses, and other healthcare workers over abortion. The trend began to spread to pharmacists with the approval of the morning after pill and physician-assisted suicide in Oregon, with support of such organizations as the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops and Pharmacists for Life International, which claims 1,600 members on 6 continents.
God damn.
Primarily in the United States, Canada, and Britain. Our group was founded with the idea of returning pharmacy to a healing-only profession.
Oh.
What's been going on is the use of medicine to stop human life. That violates the ideal of the Hippocratic Oath that medical practitioners should do no harm.
Oh, Jesus.
When that is what they are doing, you stupid lady. Doctors prescribe these things in order to avoid harm. They are preventive measures to avoid harm.
Yeah, and I don't remember it being the pharmacist's decision when they don't have any medical school under their belt to second-guess the doctor and decide that they didn't.
They know
really
best. No.
By the way, this person who made this quote, Karen L. Brower, president of Pharmacists for Life, who was fired from a Kmart pharmacy in Delhi, Ohio, for refusing to fill birth control prescriptions.
Oh, yep. Good.
Well, that's what brought this about. Is what I'm saying.
Cases have been reported across the country, including in California, Washington, Georgia, Illinois, Louisiana, Massachusetts, Texas, New Hampshire, Ohio, and North Carolina. Advocates on both sides say the refusals appear to be spreading, often surfacing only in the rare instances when women file complaints. Pharmacists are regulated by state laws and can face disciplinary action from licensing boards. But the only case that has gotten that far involves Neil T. Nosen, who in 2002 refused to fill a University of Wisconsin student's birth control prescription at a Kmart in Menominee. I should be able to say that. I live in Menominee. Anemone.
What?
It's strangely spelled. One of the Wisconsin's got a lot of these towns with weird Indian names that I don't know how to pronounce. But I'm not far from there, and I recognize what it is. I've heard that name a million times. An administrative judge last month recommended Nosen be required to take ethics classes, alert future employers to his beliefs, and pay what could be as much as $20,000 to cover the costs of the legal proceedings. The state pharmacy board will decide whether to impose that penalty next month. He's a devout Roman Catholic and believes participating in any action that inhibits or prohibits human life is a sin.
Well, then he shouldn't have become...
Wait, you are performing an action that inhibits human life. Human life involves access to your birth control pills when you want them. That is what human life is now. The rights of pharmacists like him should be respected.
No.
If you think it's sinful to be immersed up to your shoulders in human waste, you shouldn't become a sewer worker, for example, right?
Right.
Easy answer. You don't become a sewer worker, and then when they say, get down into the sewer and do your job, you say, oh no, I have a religious objection to that, and expect to keep your fucking job. Even if it's that distasteful, don't go into that career. They have every right not to hire you.
Hell, were they thinking?
That would be sensible.
Wisconsin is one of at least 11 states considering conscience clause laws that would protect pharmacists such as Nosen. 4 states already have laws that specifically allow pharmacists to refuse to fill prescriptions that violate their beliefs.
Good.
At the same time, at least 4 states are considering laws that would explicitly require pharmacists to fill all prescriptions.
Good.
The American Pharmacists Association recently reaffirmed its policy that pharmacists can refuse to fill prescriptions as long as they make sure customers can get their medications some other way.
Right.
Which is a middle-of-the-road, play-it-safe kind of answer that you'd think would satisfy these lunatics.
Right.
Without anybody having to lose their job.
Yeah. But even that's not good.
Here's the response. Brower, of Pharmacists for Life, defends the right of pharmacists not only to decline to fill prescriptions themselves, but also to refuse to refer customers elsewhere or transfer prescriptions. That's like saying, I don't kill people myself, but let me tell you about the guy down the street who does.
Damn it.
What's that saying? I will not off your husband, but I know a buddy who will? It's the same thing. said Brower, who now works at a hospital pharmacy. This woman is employed in that job.
In a related story, analogies are no longer on the SAT, so people can't even learn to reason correctly.
Large pharmacy chains, including Walgreens, Walmart, and CVS, have instituted similar policies that try to balance pharmacists' and customers' rights. Again, I think it's bullshit that a person in a job has the right not to do the job for religious reasons.
Right.
They
do have the right not to do the job.
You know, there's
they
a
just
difference.
Don't have the right to.
This whole conscientious objection
thing.
Where did this whole conscientious objection thing come from? Right. The first time we ever saw this was the military.
Right.
Well, what's the military? The military is a thing the government runs that you get drafted into. Right. There was never, to my knowledge, never a case. Please, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, because I might be wrong.
Right.
I have never heard of a case where somebody enlisted volunteered to join the military, and then said they were a conscientious objector. Does that happen?
I don't think so.
If you're going to have a special clause where you don't have to do certain things in the job because of your moral objections, that makes sense in the context of a job you didn't choose.
Right.
When you choose the fucking job, you do the fucking job. If you don't want to do the job, don't enlist for the job. It's obvious. Where does this fucking pharmacists' rights come from? Bullshit.
Yeah, I'm having trouble with my part of the show because all I can do is issue expletives because they're. I mean, God damn it! These people are so stupid,
and yet they're winning.
By the time Suzanne Richards, 21, finally got another pharmacy to fill her morning after pill prescription, after being rejected by a drive-through Brooks Pharmacy in Laconia, New Hampshire, one late Saturday night in September, the 72-hour window in which she could take said medicine and have it be effective had long passed.
Yeah, and that's why this middle-of-the-road thing, where they're saying, what if everybody in your town, if all the pharmacists in your town
how's that middle of the road? That's
now
bullshit.
You have to go hours and hours and hours out of your way, and it may just, as this instance illustrates, you're screwed.
Yeah.
Because these pharmacists don't want to be pharmacists.
Right. They don't want to have a job.
They want to be fucking
what
priests.
They do is they take money to dispense legal medications.
Right.
They don't want to do that.
Their fucking job, and they don't do it.
That. Amen, brother. Oh, boy.
Can I become a priest and then refuse to object to it? Yeah, please.
Man.
I want to become
How do we reverse
and then
this?
Stand up in
preach
front of the
atheism
congregation and tell them there is no God, you sheep.
Yeah, you fucking assholes.
That's been tried. And you know what the churches do in those cases? They fire you.
Oh, what a surprise.
What a surprise.
How much more have you got that's important?
Important? Why?
Well, we got 15 minutes, and I really wanted to talk about...
15 minutes?
Yeah, just over 15 minutes.
We did like 3 stories. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm going to take my blood pressure.
I'm sorry.
Man.
I have a moral objection to you taking blood pressure medication in my presence. And also, I'm going to lock the door so you can't go off somewhere else and take your blood pressure medication. You sinner.
Damn.
How dare you? How dare you do a thing I don't like?
Right. You get angry at a thing that I like. And so I can't give you medication to control that.
Of course not.
No. And I'll prevent you from...
I just wanted to briefly talk about a new debating experience that I had this week.
Oh, go for it.
Which involved impersonating a woman.
Cool. Debating in a dress.
Yes.
This is a new one for you, Russell.
Cross-debating.
Well, you see, my wife is involved in this hobby, which is not.
She dresses like a man?
No.
Not that hobby.
No, not that hobby.
You're a man pretending to be a woman.
I'm having a lot of trouble following your story here, Russell. Please.
Well, okay. This hobby involves message boards where she talks to other like-minded women who also enjoy this hobby. It's like an artsy-craftsy thing. It's nothing like the person.
Oh, okay. All right.
But it brings her in contact with a lot of, let's say...
I think you can name your wife's hobby and not leave everybody hanging wondering what kind of weird, twisted sexual perversion it is.
No, it's called Stampin' Up, and it involves making greeting cards with little rubber stamps.
Okay. So it's a craft hobby. Huh?
Yes.
That's fine.
That's it.
Right. Okay.
So,
and everybody's wearing the proper gender's clothing.
Yes.
Okay.
Fairly innocuous.
All right, go ahead.
So she has this message board in which she comes into contact with other people who
like to make cards out of stamps.
Yes, which, as you might imagine, is a particular demographic. Tends to be housewives who are at home all
And
day.
by the way, I have to step in and issue a disclaimer. I don't actually have any problem with anybody that wants to dress like someone of the opposite gender.
I didn't.
No,
I know. No. I know, but I made disparaging remarks about that to be funny.
Right.
I don't actually have a problem.
That is
this is just
I thought.
This is just what clothes are appropriate for people to wear depend on the culture and time you're living in, and that's all there is to it.
Damn right.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, to make a long story short, there are some extremely stupid people on this board.
No.
As you might imagine.
Yeah?
There are also some extremely smart people, including my wife. But on Easter, there was a flood of posts just drooling, Jesus is risen! Oh, thanks, Jesus! And just like page after page of completely content-free posts.
Yeah.
So Jenny decided, well, I never get into it with these women on this board. So she posted something about, as a Christian, what do you think if some of your friends or family are going to hell? And
it's good.
That's a nice, simple, friendly question.
That's a completely reasonable question.
She said, I'm not trying to start an argument. I just want to hear how you deal with that, because I'm interested in finding out your mindset. Things went okay for about 4 pages of posts, and then this creationist stepped in. And started just attacking her personally and nastily. And started bringing up, creationist websites with, the 30 reasons why evolution is false. And I was like, great! I haven't had a debate like this in a long time.
So you put on your wife's dress.
No, that wasn't necessary.
Because it was all an email.
Yeah, remember, on the internet, no one knows you're a dog.
Right.
As the New Yorker cartoon said once. You haven't seen that cartoon.
Man,
I have. I'm trying to come up with an effective joke.
Okay.
To make use of that straight line. Go ahead. I couldn't think of one.
Anyway, at first, and this is like my AA meeting. At first, it started out really simple. I just gave her advice on how to respond to this person, but I started doing more and more of it, and finally, I said,
you took over the argument.
Finally, I said, "Look, let me write long posts in response to this, and you just edit it and take out anything that you think it would be inappropriate for you to say." So I became her for a while and started arguing as if I were my wife. And it was a blast because this person, I already mentioned she put up the 30 reasons why evolution is false. And you know why they do that. Because it takes 30 seconds to Google up that thing and not even bother to verify it. But each one of them takes half an hour to explain.
Exactly.
So I said, no. I'm not going to answer your whole stupid list. I'll answer 2 questions at a time. You pick your favorites, and then you will answer my questions. So she said, I'm not going to play that game, and then they changed the subject for a while, and then she came back and accused us of not having answered her 30 objections.
Right.
So I said, when are you going to ask 2 specific questions? And she said, I'm not going to do that, and then she did.
Cool.
And her 2 were, how come, if species evolve, there have been no new species that we could observe directly? And that one was trivial.
Yeah, there are new species.
Yes, there are. And then she said, name some. And I said, okay. I went to talkorigins.org,
yep.
Found a precise page addressing this bogus argument. Oh, her second question was the, evolution is extremely improbable if you just assume that it's random stuff happening. So that took a while to pick apart. But then I went to Talk Origins and presented some examples. Like, for instance, there are ring species. Do you know about that? Basically, you have on little islands, running in a ring around the island, you have a species in one location, and then in the next location you have an almost the same species but changed just a little bit, and then in the next location you have changed a little bit more. And they go all the way around the island until they get back to the beginning, and then you find that you have 2 species of the same animal that cannot interbreed with each other.
Wow.
Right.
Isn't that interesting?
That's cool. That's like a microcosm of the whole evolutionary thing.
Yeah, that is neat.
That's perfect.
And also there have been, it's been proven that there are certain species around that were not around in earlier recorded history.
Right.
And so I presented
Mosquitoes in the London Underground is my favorite example.
Right. So the first thing that I posted all this and I said, go read it for yourself. And there was, a delay. And then she said, were you there?
Oh.
Which you may recognize from the evolution special on PBS, where they show Australian creationist Ken Ham drilling this into the fundies' heads, saying, so when an evolutionist says that species can evolve, you say, were you there? And then, louder, I can't hear you. And he just gets them to repeat that over and over again, because were you there, it's basically solipsism. You can't prove anything unless you personally witnessed it. So her response was, did you see these species evolve?
No, God just set it up that way to mislead me.
Yeah. So I was just about to post some longer post about standards of evidence.
Yeah.
When all of a sudden she posts again. Because I think what happened was that she first looked for some refutation of these evolving species and couldn't find it. And so she grabbed at the fallback answer, which is, were you there?
Right.
But then she hunted around desperately for some more, and she came up with 2 terrific creationist articles by Carl Weiland. And what they said was, yeah, there are new species, but that's good for creationists. Because...
Because?
Well, because actually we believe in microevolution. And
wait a minute, but I thought microevolution, specifically, what's micro about it, is it never goes far enough that you get a new species. Hasn't that always been what microevolution was?
No, because they can't say there are new species, because the evidence that there are new species is so strong that even they haven't been able to find that.
Not originally. Not originally. When the whole concept of microevolution was originally proposed as to account for changes in species, it was always the line between microevolution and macroevolution is you could evolve within some limits, but never enough that you become a new species. You can have different types of dogs, but they're all dogs, and they're all the dog species.
Except they don't use the word species. They use the word kind.
Right.
Remember?
No, you're talking about now.
Yeah.
I'm talking about originally.
Okay.
Right? They cannot play. They have to play fair.
I didn't argue creationism back when they were doing
Well, all right.
that, so
But I think it's important to note when we're debating with these people that if they go ahead, they're going to do this. They're doing the same crap with their creationism arguments that they've done with religion, right? Their interpretation of the Bible has changed over time to match scientific evidence and ethical advancement by humanity, so that the same stupid book that they were referring to 2,000 years ago is now interpreted differently, but it's the same fucking words.
Exactly.
Right? And they claim they were right all along.
And yet...
That's what they're doing here. They're saying, microevolution now does go so far as to accommodate speciation. Well, if there's fucking speciation, there's evolution. What is their problem? What, now you can get speciation, but it's still, all you can get is maybe you can get one thing that's a horse that looks like a horse that can't breed with another thing that looks like a horse, but they're still both horses?
They're both the same kind.
Fuck. Okay, go ahead.
And of course, you can't pin them down on what a kind is, because, are horses now the same kind as donkeys?
Right.
For instance.
Right. They don't. I presume there is no clear definition of kind.
There is no clear definition
of course not.
Which is exactly why there's no clear definition of God. When they had clear definitions of God, it could be disproved.
That's right. Mm-hmm. So they have to make it vague and undisprovable.
Go ahead.
Right. So, I thought, thanks.
Yeah,
she just made my case for me. So I said, I don't need to argue against this article at all. All I have to say is, you asked me to provide an example of new species arising. I did that. Now you agreed with me. Thank you. And then her comeback was something like, you think that proves evolution, which is moving the goalposts, of course.
Right. Well, she had 30 questions, and you limited her to 2.
Yeah.
The thing I would hammer on at this point, but it's me, because I like to go for the jugular and not let them have an inch, right? I would now say, please repost your 29 reasons why evolution isn't true. Mm-hmm. Take that one off the list.
Yes. So, but her response was something like, that doesn't prove evolution, and don't act so smug, because you didn't know that before.
Fuck?
Yeah, I know. It's
don't act
you're
like
the one that told her there was speciation.
Learning is bad.
Yeah, I bet you never even heard of ring species before reading that, which, basically I didn't know that much about them, but so what?
Right.
But I noticed something, a thread running through this whole conversation with her, which was basically, I'm a guy, and a lot of people who argue online are guys.
Yeah. And
when guys argue with other guys, you get a lot of aggression sometimes.
Uh-huh.
Right? Yeah. Same sort of thing you've been hearing for the past hour and a half. We go after people aggressively.
Some of us do.
Yeah. But there's a
reason why you guys are on this audio show with me.
Oh, thanks.
There's other people who aren't so aggressive.
Yes.
That I don't think make good co-hosts for the show.
Right.
So go ahead.
We got 2 minutes. Sorry.
Go.
The time.
No, it's all right. This is interesting.
I noticed something about arguing as a woman that I don't think I've ever encountered while arguing as a man. Which
breasts
is
got bigger? What?
There
you
was
started enjoying wearing pink?
No, shut up! Let him say.
There was a certain sort of condescension that I ran into that I usually don't get, which is not just your points are wrong, but you couldn't possibly have known that before, girlfriend. I mean,
so what?
Sort of I just think it's sort of a sexist assumption that as a guy I can know stuff more, whereas there's sort of an unspoken assumption among, this particular fundamentalist woman.
Yeah, that who doesn't know stuff?
Ginny.
But we assume that fundamentalist guys that we debate with don't know stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How's that different? Was a different attitude behind it?
It just seemed like a different attitude. It was
different
right
brand
from the
of
start.
Huh.
It was like, this stuff is over your head. You can't understand this kind of thing.
Because you're a woman. And this is another woman telling...
I mean, she didn't explicitly say that, but that was kind of a vibe I got, because I was
weird.
like, why is this person talking to me this way? I don't usually get it.
Yeah. It varies from crazy Christian to crazy Christian that you talk to, what their attitude is. I mean,
right.
I've seen everything from smarmy condescension to, outright bile and brimstone.
Yeah.
So...
Well, I guess it was the attitude.
I think you need to debate as a woman more to see if you've got, that's a very small sample size.
Sort of an undercover project, I guess.
And by the way, once again, I need to make a disclaimer.
Uh-oh.
Nothing wrong with men that want to have breasts.
That's good.
Or men who like to wear pink.
Right.
Said it to be funny because it's unusual in our culture. But that doesn't mean shit. Okay, everybody, thanks for listening to the show. We will be back again in 2 weeks. I never did get to announcements.
I'm sorry.
Is there any way I can? Can I talk over the music for a while?
Do the important ones.
ACA Blood Drive on April 16 at 10 a.m. at the Texas Regional Blood and Tissue Center. Contact Don Rhodes if you want to open your veins for a good cause. On April 17th, the ACA Lecture Series will feature Dees Eckstein, Texas Director of People for the American Way. That's at 9th and Guadalupe, Austin History Center, 9th and Guadalupe at 12:30 p.m. on the 17th. Thanks for listening. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Cool.
Bye.
Bye-bye.